Coming up here on the San Francisco 49ers Report, is Trent Williams out for the year? Isaac Guerendo's problematic injury. There's a lot at stake for quarterback Brock Purdy, and Kyle Shanahan dropping a couple of truth bombs today and said some interesting things. We'll get into all of this coming up just around the corner. Before we begin, you take a look at the most likes that we've gotten on our most liked videos this week, and we put out content every single day and oftentimes multiple shows per day. That's why you subscribe to the channel. But our Brock Purdy report on Monday, 652 likes. Big moves coming from Monday, 618 likes. Yesterday, the Niners signed an offensive lineman, Nick Sorensen, was backed by Nick Bosa. He wants him back next year as the Niners defensive coordinator, and that video picked up 500 likes. On this show, can we beat that number? Smash that thumbs up icon, like the video. Competition brings the best out of everybody, and we never settle here on this show. Let's start off with some Niners injury news here. Niners returning to the practice field on Wednesday to prepare for their Week 16 game against the Miami Dolphins on the road. They have a little bit of a mini bye week, but a couple of players might not be able to go. And by the way, if the Niners lose this game to Miami, it's a bad look. San Francisco prides themselves on being a tough, rugged, physical football unit. The Miami Dolphins are the softest team in the National Football League. Just wanted to get that off my chest. As for some of those injuries, running back Isaac Guerendo, due to a hamstring issue, not practicing today. Kyle Shanahan said it was an injury that he sustained during last week's game against the Los Angeles Rams. He went into that game on Thursday dealing with the foot sprain. He still played. Niners ground game couldn't get going. That's a big reason why the offense only scored 6 points. And I specifically want to bring this up because Guerendo does have a hamstring history. We talked about this a lot here on the show. It was a concern for mine pre-draft when I had him going to the Niners in one of my mocks. In 2019, missed the first 8 games of the year due to a hamstring injury. In 2020, missed the final 6 games due to a hamstring injury. He is a former track star, twitchy athlete who has some really good size, but those hamstring ailments have ailed him. And so in those 2 years, in 2019 and in 2020, he missed more games than he played. And then back before the season, he was dealing with another hamstring issue. So keep that in mind as you look forward for him and his respective career. You obviously want to be able to see him and his continued development for this team and for San Francisco to get this ground game going. And with where the Niners are at right now, less than a 1% chance of making the playoffs, right now it all comes down to developing some of the young players on this team. As for left tackle Trent Williams, also out again for the Wednesday practice session, continues to battle with an ankle injury. And those are the only 2 players who are sitting out of practice on Wednesday. Shanahan said, if he could get back to being healthy, we'd play him, but it's not looking like that right now. So it's closer to being that way. Closer to being that way, meaning we might not see him for the rest of the year. And if we don't, and even if he is somewhat healthy, why play him? Your season's over. You sign him to that new deal and see if Jalen Moore can be a guy on this Niners roster moving forward. Because if you can lock down that backup left tackle spot with Jalen Moore, that's a very important position. The other players here on the Niners injury report, limited. Nick Bosa, hip and oblique. Jalen Moore with a hip. Maliek Mustafa chest. He missed last week's game. The Niners missed him in that secondary. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw, knee and Achilles, although he has responded well to playing on Thursday against the Rams, and he was on the practice field on Wednesday. It looks as though he's going to be able to play, even though he missed the second half due to Achilles fatigue. And then offensive lineman Nick Zakelj out with an illness. Let's talk about Brock Purdy here next. The Brock Purdy contract discussions are already picking up steam. And this is well ahead of free agency when these contract talks are going to get underway. And some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm getting exhausted already. You thought Brandon Ayuk's contract ordeal was something? Brock Purdy is going to be something fierce with his new contract that he is seeking. And this is what happens when you are a losing football team. I thought what ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano said was pretty interesting. He said that Purdy is the player in the NFL with the most at stake for the final 3 weeks of the regular season. Here's a direct quote. Purdy, extension eligible for the first time this offseason. He's been a steal for San Francisco since he was the last pick in 2022. Named him the starter during that season. His rookie deal has paid him less than $1 million per year on average, and he's likely to get an extension from the Niners this offseason. But how lucrative that extension will be is one of the key questions facing this team as it confronts various salary cap challenges in the next several off seasons. Do the Niners have the appetite or even the ability to pay Purdy $50 million per year or more? Will he insist on that? Could the final 3 games of this nearly lost season in San Francisco affect those negotiations? As you know, if you watch the show and you follow me on social media at Chase_Senior, I am reporting, according to multiple NFL sources, that Purdy will not take a hometown discount, and he is seeking a new deal between $50 and $60 million. And I'm not sure if the final 3 games of this year are going to impact the contract negotiations. At this point, the Niners have a pretty big sample size on Purdy already. He's 23-11 in his career. He's 4-2 in the NFL playoffs. He made it to 1 NFC title, won another, and then made it to the Super Bowl last year. I thought he played pretty well in that game against Kansas City. And according to my sources, the Niners understand, and Purdy's camp realizes this, a lot of his struggles, they believe, due in large part to all of the chaos and instability around him. Brandon Ayuk hold in, Trent Williams hold out, Christian McCaffrey injury, Deebo Samuel being injured and declining, even though Kyle Shanahan said on Wednesday he doesn't think that he slowed down. The numbers and our eye test, they show Deebo slowing down. George Kittle's been hurt. Jawan Jennings has missed time. Ricky Pearsall got shot. I think Kyle Shanahan has had his worst coaching and play calling year this year. That has not put Purdy in a position to succeed. The Niners have had a bad defense. They're 25th on third downs, 30th in the red zone. And Purdy hasn't been helped out by good offensive line play, and the Niners' run game has not been there. The average receiver target separation is not good. He's really missed Brandon Ayuk and some of these marquee players, and Purdy is a player whose strengths are based upon processing, timing, accuracy, feel, reps, being able to lead his wide receivers. This offense, too, is timing-based. How do you work on timing when you don't have any continuity at the skill position spots and you're not getting protected? So I think you have to factor that in with the Brock Purdy contract talks here. I think what we know is that Purdy is bordering on being one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, but many other quarterbacks need help around them. So, too, does Brock Purdy. And I think when you look at some of the other quarterbacks in the NFL and you compare Purdy to some of those other guys in his class, I don't think he's a Patrick Mahomes, a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson who can truly elevate the surrounding pieces around them regardless of who those players are. I think Purdy is more in the class of a Jared Goff, a Baker Mayfield, a Dak Prescott, a Jalen Hurts, where you do need some pieces around you, some quality coaching, some things to go in your favor, and some complementary help in order to reach your maximized potential. And that's fine, because a lot of other quarterbacks are in that territory here. Now, everybody is down on Brock Purdy's deep ball this year. All things considered, he's actually throwing the deep ball pretty well by the numbers despite some misses. He's thrown short, but against Chicago 2 weeks ago, the deep ball was pretty good. This year, the numbers are pretty good, and he doesn't have the receiver target separation that he has this year compared to last year. This year, it's bad. Last year, it was really good. In 2023, Purdy had the number 1 deep ball completion rate at 55.3%. His receiver target separation was 14th. In 2024, the number 3 deep ball completion rate at 47.2%. So the percentages have gone down, but he's gone down from number 1 to number 3. But check this out. His receiver target separation is 68th among quarterbacks who have thrown a pass. So he's had to make a lot of tight window, taxing, difficult throws. That makes his job and his life harder. In 2023, his deep ball catchable pass rate was also number 1 at 61.7%. And in 2024, his deep ball catchable pass rate is 50%. That's 6th in the NFL. So I think the lack of receiver target separation for the Niners, no Brandon Ayuk, no Christian McCaffrey, players declining, that has hurt Brock Purdy, and he's had to make a lot of those very difficult throws. And also, I want to put this out there. Can we please stop comparing Purdy to Jimmy Garoppolo? Brock Purdy is a much better player than Jimmy Garoppolo, especially with what has been put on his plate in the passing game. And I think that Purdy has a stronger arm than Jimmy G. I think he's a better athlete. He has more mobility. He's a better runner. He layers balls in there more. The deep ball is better. He doesn't make boneheaded decisions like Jimmy Garoppolo. This is all evidenced by what Kyle Shanahan puts on Purdy's plate in the passing game. But the Brock Purdy discourse has gotten to a point where people are comparing him to Jimmy G. Some are even saying that Jimmy G is better than Purdy. Can we please stop? It's not just a numbers-based argument. Use your mind and use your eyes. Sometimes you have to use your eyes and go off gut. You can't solely go off by numbers. If you are running a business, of course, you want access to data because you can improve your business based on that data. But sometimes when you have to make a big business decision, you have to rely on that gut. You have to rely on your eyes here. And Jimmy G would never be able to sniff what Purdy did last year. Purdy was top 5 in MVP voting in 2023. He was number 1 in yards per attempt, adjusted air yards per attempt, true passer rating, QBR, deep ball catchable rate, EPA, red zone completion rate, number 3 in passing touchdowns, number 4 in pressure completion rate, and number 5 in passing yards. So the players are not similar here, and Brock Purdy is much better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And with that deep ball, I do think that it can return to being a dangerous element of Purdy's game next year. He just needs some help. He needs to make some better throws. The play calling, play designs have to be a little bit better, but this is a little bit of a personnel issue. And as far as comparing him to Sam Darnold, Darnold has benefited, first of all, from being with the Niners last year. And then last year, he had that opportunity to reset, catch his breath, develop as a veteran, and finally be with a functional, winning organization. He didn't have that with the Jets. He didn't have that with the Panthers. And this year, he's also paired up with one of the top offensive play callers in the game in Kevin O'Connell, a great wide receiver duo, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, good tight end, good run game. The offensive line, pretty good, although they suffered some injuries there. And last year when Purdy had a good supporting cast and less chaos, he was top 5 in that MVP voting. This season, the ship has not been as stable, and that's led to down numbers. Let's get to our sponsor for today's show. Plenty more to get to, including some very interesting things that head coach Kyle Shanahan had to say. But first, holidays are coming up. If you want to get something awesome as far as a gift for Christmas, Hanukkah, a birthday, a different holiday, how about you download the Game Time app, you create an account, you use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, and you get $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. A great gift is tickets to a sporting event, concert, comedy show, theater event, and a whole lot more. The user interface and experience of this app is incredible. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can access tickets from your phone, and I just love how you can get the viewpoint and the price point from your seats. If you want to go to Niners Dolphins this weekend or Niners Lions next week on Monday Night Football to check out your San Francisco 49ers, download the Game Time app. They have flash deals and zone deals. Game Time Picks is awesome because curation allows you to sort through the best tickets and not have to go through thousands of them. We'll put this link down below in the comments section and in the description of today's Niners Report. What time is it? Game time. And be sure to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with our partners at Game Time. All right, so next up here on the show, Kyle Shanahan had a lot of interesting things to say from Santa Clara, including admitting that the signing of DeAndre Campbell was a mistake, and sometimes you are who you are. Sometimes your personality is what it is. And even though the Niners have a very sound culture, you can bring in a malcontent, and they're going to continue to be a jackass. And one of the things that stood out to me when I was around this team in Las Vegas last year was their culture. And I asked a lot of players about it because it was noticeable how great of a culture they have, how much they love ball, how much they're willing to engage and interact with one another and the media, how easy they are to talk to. And sometimes when you get millionaires up there, that is not the case. I've been around other professional athletes, and they don't want to give you the time of day. And they said that starts with John Lynch, that starts with Kyle Shanahan, and they bring in players who love ball, who are invested, who have great character. DeAndre Campbell is not that guy. A straight-up stiff, a straight-up fraud for leaving the football field early and refusing to go into the game when Ricky Pearsall's been shot. Charvarius Ward lost his 1-year-old daughter. Trent Williams lost twins. Fred Warner's been playing on a broken ankle since week 4. And just because you got replaced by a better player who people on the Niners called the engine of their defense, you're going to pout, complain before the game, and then when you get asked to go in because Greenlaw can't play, you say, nah. That's weak sauce there from DeAndre Campbell. Got that 3-game suspension. I think his NFL career is over. And if I'm a general manager, I'm not bringing him into my building. But today, Kyle Shanahan on top of that indicated that Campbell was actually the Niners' third choice to replace Dre Greenlaw. As we know, the Niners signed Eric Kendricks. He then went to the Dallas Cowboys instead of signing with the Niners during that tampering period. And we're not sure who that second option is. Campbell was the third, and now he's out of here. In regards to bringing back both Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, this is something that I've talked about over the last couple of weeks. The Niners are third in yards per game given up defensively, 25th on third downs, 30th in the red zone. Just not good enough. I will say, the defense has looked much better and much different with Hufanga and Greenlaw back. Hufanga comes back 2 weeks ago against Chicago. Greenlaw back last week. 8 tackles in the first half. They play with instincts. They play with feel. They play with speed, confidence, swagger. They play with this velocity and nastiness and leadership that sometimes you cannot coach. And Kyle Shanahan, he might watch the 49ers report because I said I want him back. Shanahan said, yeah, I'd like him back as well. Here's a direct quote. Those are 2 of the better players I've been around and 2 of the better players on our team and 2 of the main reasons we've had the success here that we've had. So hopefully we can do everything we can to keep them here because they are as much examples of 49ers as anyone I can think of. Greenlaw was asked, do you want to come back? I love this. The dude's a dog. He loves ball. Quote, honestly, the only thing that goes through my mind is whooping Miami's ass and going to do it with my brothers. That makes me want to bring 57 back even more. And how about what Greenlaw's teammates have said about him? George Kittle, he's an absolute unicorn of a football player. Nick Bosa, he's my favorite teammate ever to play with. He's an absolute dog and he's showing it. Fred Warner, he is a freak of nature. That's pretty telling. And when you hear that from the head coach, that's telling as well. Before we hop on out of here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily and year-round coverage of the Niners. And as always, thanks for hanging out. And if you're still watching, yeah, give me a real one.